All right, everyone, I'm finally here with our blast from the past for Handmaid's Tale Season 2. All right, I'm going to get started with our Season 2 first look trailer. I kind of like this because it does encapsulate a lot of what occurs in Season 2, and I do like the music. I hope I can get away with the music playing, but I can't guarantee anything. If it is a problem, I will have to re-record with the volume turned way down and my voice over the top of it like it is now. I am also doing this season's a little bit different. I had a lot of struggles getting everything together and getting it edited. My files have deleted off my video editor multiple times now, and I just can't deal with it. So what I am going to do is just record and then put them all together at the end.
Okay, this episode is episode 6 called First Blood, and it's another impactful episode. I think just because of what's going on with Nick and his new child bride wife, along with a couple other things that happen this episode, these are going to be a lot. So June's problem is a hemorrhage in the uterine wall, a subchorionic hematoma, which caused a lot of bleeding, but apparently the baby is fine. The baby needs harmony in the household. Yeah, right, like that's gonna happen. But it does for a little while. And that doctor that's examining her, same doctor who offered Offred to get her pregnant earlier in the series. And here we go again, back to the awkward behavior from Serena and a little more spunk from June. When Nick offered to see her that night, she brought up his new wife. When's her bedtime, by the way? Then when Nick asked Rita, "Smells good, where's mine?" she snapped back, "Ask your wife." Yeah, these gals got all the swipes. Now we get to see Fred and Lydia discussing the new building for the Red Center, or the Rachel and Leah Center. So we get to see the first awkward interactions between Nick and his new child bride. She's trying to be the well-trained, rehearsed good wife. He says, "It must be hard, leaving your family." She gently places her hand on his, saying, "You're my family now. Mom's taught me everything I need to know about marriage. What's expected of me. I know what God expects of me." Apparently that was too much for Nick, and he had to go step outside to smoke. But it's your own house. You can do what you want. This poor girl is not ready to be discarded from this horrible only job that she's ever been trained for and forced into. Serena and June have a little bonding moment, feeling the baby move. This time, Serena actually gets June's consent, unlike last time. Flashback. Serena's been invited to present her new book, Woman's Work, on campus, but many are not at all happy with her presence or the message she wants to give. The protesters are angry she's even there. The crowds very quickly get carried away, swearing, calling her a Nazi, a fascist, and then throwing a water balloon at her. With this chaotic response, she's quickly rushed out of there. Back in Gilead, there's creepy-ass Fred with his giant knife, bread, and cheese. Fred offers, "Are you mad at me or something?" Tells him that we haven't talked in so long, but your wife's being nice at least. Eden and June share a little intimate discussion. Nick doesn't hate you. No, you're not ugly. This is new to him too. Give him some time. Oh, but we don't have time. It's our duty to God. And what if he's a gender traitor? No, I assure you he's not, and he'll be a great father to your children. Well, that was a lovely talk. Looks like it's time to have a little talk with Nick now. But not before Serena throws a little brunch party with June and her friends. Certainly all these handmaids are her friends. Why won't your walking partner talk? Well, if not for cutting out her tongue. But at least all the handmaids get the joy of feeling the baby in Offred's tummy. And Serena goes to tend her seedlings. Then we get another flashback. Fred insists that Serena stay and make the chaotic crowds hear her. Some stay angry and hateful, some cheer her. But as she's leaving, 2 shots are fired. One killing Serena's assistant, the other hitting Serena in the abdomen. Back to June and Serena. Serena's showing June the nursery. June tells her about the stars in the nursery she had for Hannah, that her husband was into that and would point to the constellations. Serena, if I could just see Hannah for a little bit. Oh no, that will not do. Time for you to go back to your isolated room. In comes Nick to the rescue. But young man, you have a job to do. Your child bride Eden will make trouble. She will report you. You need to do your husbandly duty. But I can't. It's not fair. Oh, you poor baby. You have to fuck someone you don't want to? Well, you have to, because I can't lose you. I can't have you hanging on the wall. You know this is getting ugly and getting way too real. So Offred's room has been refurnished, and Nick does his duty, having sex with his teenage child bride. Gently, carefully, but still. What a terrible arrangement. One that occurs in way too many religious cults and conservative religious denominations. Still today, in every corner of the world. Don't think it doesn't happen. It does. Flashback again to Fred and Serena. Fred tells Serena that he never should have let her start speaking in public. Serena tells Fred, stop that and be a man. Listen to this patriarchal crap. And as usual, the stronger woman has to be a crutch for the weaker man, who then, after hearing Serena's concerns that the cops won't do anything, goes out, finds the guy who did this, and kills his girlfriend in front of him. Back in Gilead, Serena has told Fred of June asking to see Hannah. So he brings June a picture of Hannah. Then he leaves the room, but not before he tries to make a move on her, only for her to say she's too worried about the baby, just to get him off of her. At least she's got a picture of Hannah, though. Now we're back to Serena and June, and Serena's got to play her games, putting Eden in the middle of all her spite. Now the scene that is the reason for this episode's name, First Blood, of Glenn's got a grenade, and launches it into the new Rachel and Leah Center. And right after Nick had just told Commander Andrew Price of the serious need to be reassigned to get out of that house, that he has a lot of information about Fred he hasn't told him, and to please keep an eye on the handmaid. Make sure she's safe. There are some things that we did not know at the end of this episode. We didn't know how it was going to turn out. We didn't realize, I think, that so many of the handmaids were also going to get killed in this. And we didn't know if Fred was going to actually make it or how well he was going to do. But I think we also didn't know that Price was going to be gone. He wouldn't be able to do anything about the warning that Nick gave, which ends up putting them all in a dangerous situation. But also gives Serena and June a chance to kind of work together and to see that they do have somewhat of a camaraderie and they do work well together. It's just that Serena, no matter how much leeway you give her, no matter how much you try to feel some empathy for her, she seems to do well for a little while, but then always pulls back and goes back to being her narcissistic self. And that always ruins things. So no matter how well they work together, there's always this almost love-hate relationship between the two. Episode 7 is After. Some really fucked up stuff's going to happen in this one, but so is some pretty good stuff. So let's get on with it. Cushing, that's the new asshole. This is one thing that Gilead and Handmaid's Tale does so well. Making funerals look so beautiful. All those handmaids gone. I cried so much on this one. Fred is pretty banged up, but he's in and out of consciousness. And unfortunately, Price is dead. Over 20 commanders and over 30 handmaids gone. Canada has gotten word of the bombing, which Moira is very worried about, but Luke just says, "I have faith she's alive," and walks away. Maybe this is some of what people really started to have a problem with when it comes to seeing Luke as maybe not doing enough for June and Hannah. Because honestly, his inaction at the beginning couldn't be helped. He was seriously injured and there was no way he was getting either of them back. But I heard a lot of complaining about Luke after a while. Like Luke being too lukewarm, Luke being too weak, Luke not doing enough, Luke not seeming to care enough, all of that stuff. But, what do any of us know if we are not in the same position? We don't know what it's like to be in his shoes. And really, most of us have no idea what anything like that would be like because, frankly, the horrific tragedy and massive takedown that Gilead was part of is really unlike anything most people have ever seen. Yes, pretty much every tragedy that occurs in The Handmaid's Tale has occurred somewhere in our own history, and some of it still occurs, but not like one freaking very powerful nation all at once like this. Taking the whole thing down, and then trafficking, killing so many people, damn near wiping out the entire nation. We get a flashback. Moira apparently did a surrogacy. Now, in real life, she is looking for her fiancé. Not her living fiancé. She's looking to see if she can find her within all the files of the dead. Cushing knows something. Says June ran away, and June, after being prodded about who helped her, said she was kidnapped. Then he insists, if your house has been infected by terrorists, I need to know. Martha across the street is just another of the most recent of the many, many killed in this rampage against terrorists. Yeah, I guess one country's terrorists is another country's saviors, but whatever. Nick is getting way too cozy with June and in way too open a spot. That stuff always made me so uneasy. Serena comes in, tells June that the baby needs sleep. And June says, right now, baby needs Twinkies. We're compromising. By the way, Commander Cushing doesn't believe I was taken. And also, Cushing will take out this whole household if he expects any connection to the underground. I think that got Serena's attention. So Serena's going to start dealing with this by working with Nick, and then later with June. We get to see flashbacks of Moira's pregnancy, June, and then Moira's relationship with Odette. She finally finds her image in one of the files of the dead. Cushing witnessed the power of the Serena in the eyes. Taken down by a woman, you evil man. Emily and Janine are back. June tells Emily her name, tells Brianna her name. Brianna tells Alma her name. And then this continues on so that all the handmaids are telling each other their real names. It was really, really, truly inspirational. Then Canada does their own memorial for these handmaids who died in the bombing, and Moira does one for Odette. Serena gets June. Says Cushing turned the streets into a war zone, and now we're going to get things under control. You're an editor, right? Well, read these over for me. Okay, June says, I'll need a pen. Time for June and Serena to get to work. And hey, then my song plays. Venus, she's got it. Yeah, baby, she's got it. That's my name, Venus. Like I said, man, there was a lot of stuff that happens in this episode. Some of it really, really horrible, but some of it actually pretty darn good. Episode 8 is women's work. And that's why I'm easy. Easy like a Sunday morning. That plays at the beginning, and it also plays at the end of the episode. Although I would say that this episode is not at all easy like a Sunday morning. June and Serena have been working regularly on these documents to try to get their neighborhood back in order. She says they work in the evenings, doing heretical work, and Serena is now fallen. And Serena also says she won't forget June's help, which really she doesn't. She gives her a gift of a music box along with a rose. Unfortunately, that also gets her in trouble later, thanks to abusive Fred. We also find out Commander Fred comes home tomorrow, and all this will come to an end. A very sad, devastating end, with Fred being an abusive husband, slamming down the gauntlet on his very capable wife. He gets home, goes to his office. All your work is over, Serena, and Fred is shutting you out. Eden, unfortunately, is also shut out. She is so alone. Now Janine's baby is sick, and Janine is getting very upset. Says she needs to see her, and June tells her that cannot happen. Janine snaps back, "You sound just like one of them." She's not wrong. I'm pretty sure that Serena has said the same thing to her about Hannah. But because Janine's baby is so sick, Serena wants another doctor to help. Tells June that it requires bending the law. And Fred won't go for it because the doctor is a female. "We cannot question the will of God," he says. Now June and Serena are trying to work together to get Janine a visit with her baby. And they are able to convince the Gilead parents, Naomi and Commander Putnam. Meantime, Serena worked her magic, going over Fred's head to get that doctor. This is really bittersweet for the doctor. She's had this whole life ripped away from her, and only gets to return for one day of work. The turmoil of the whole thing brings tears to her eyes. And even after this step, the doctor runs all the tests she can, and things still aren't looking good. They at least get Janine permission to be with the baby in person, to say goodbye. All they can do is pray and let Janine work her mommy magic. Back at the Waterfords, Fred is waiting to lay down the law on Serena, and he will strip her of any respect, pride, or dignity. Then Nick gets into his room, and Eden has tried to make the room more homey, trying to be the good wife, but Nick sees the letters out, becomes very accusatory, hostile, and angry, scares Eden, tells her not to touch his things, makes this already lonely girl feel even worse than he already had. Serena's been marked by Fred's whipping, but even more marked by the emotional turmoil. This house is so very toxic right now. Janine is still at the hospital, though, and we hear her singing and the baby cooing. Not only did she make it through the night, Janine worked her mommy skin-to-skin magic, and that baby is thriving. Alright everyone, episode 9 is called Smart Power. I don't know how I managed this, but I managed to skip this whole recording, so this is old. Guardian boy Isaac, Nick, and Fred are gathered in a room. Fred, Nick, and Serena will be taking a trip to Canada after the terrorist attack. I guess one person's terrorist is another person's hero, but whatever. Fred needs Serena to come to Canada to show them a strong Gilead wife after he stripped her of all her dignity. Isaac's new posting is the beginning of the end for Eden, and the beginning of real love and real freedom. We can look at it very, very negatively, but we could also kind of look at it in a positive, because she will at least have an opportunity at real love, unlike what she's getting from Nick. Before they leave, Serena couldn't help but swing down the gauntlet on June. You'll be leaving as soon as the baby is born, 'cause that's totally what's best for the baby. Moira and Luke see Waterford on the news. They go to the government lady, wanting him arrested. He's a war criminal, a serial rapist who kidnapped and raped Luke's wife. But she can't do anything. They're only guests in Canada. Serena sticks out like a sore thumb in Canada. Or a princess, according to the little girl. We meet Mark Tuello. He says he helps people, works with the American government, and offers Serena a way out, but she turns him down. June begins her quest to get people to help her baby, starting with a quest for Rita to be somewhat of a godmother. Show her kindness. Back in Canada, Luke is protesting, gets to confront Waterford, but cops hold him off. Still, Nick sees him, talks to him later in a bar, tells him that June is pregnant, she's okay, which he responds that she's really not okay. In relative Gilead terms, she's okay. He gets the handmaid's letters to Luke to get out to the public. June's next step to get help for her baby, this time pleading with Lydia to keep the baby safe. Any man who would hurt a woman would also hurt a child. So, apparently Aunt Lydia was a godmother. But the baby died at 4 days old. June says sorry, and oddly, Lydia responds with, "It wasn't my fault." In Canada, Luke, Moira, and Aaron are going through the letters. Moira comments that she thought it would be C4 or something that'd go boom. Aaron responds that these letters could go boom. Y'all, getting these letters out to the public went boom. Waterfords are uninvited, sent packing. Oh, Fred, you don't like your indiscretions shown in front of your face? Her name's Moira, not Ruby. Yeah, get that through your head. And back in Gilead, Nick gives June the news. Luke got the letters. He got them out. And Moira got out and she is staying with him. June says, "Oh my God, they're going to kill each other." All right, everyone. Episode 10 is called The Last Ceremony. And if you've watched this, you know why. This is a spectacular episode, a horrible episode, and a spectacular episode. Because that's just Handmaid's Tale. You can't have good without the bad. You can have bad without any good, but you can't have good without any bad. Not in this series. It's Emily's ceremony, and the sloth has a heart attack. "Chances are better if I lay on my back after," she says after being told to get help. Wife leaves to get help, and she kicks the crap out of that sloth. At the store, June's having contractions, but tells Emily that Moira got out. You can't give up. But Emily is so down right now, she just can't see any positives. June's in labor, with Nick showing just how much he cares, right in front of his wife Eden. Bittersweet station in Serena's room for labor and delivery. I do like the blue floral ceiling, but it's Serena's room. The men are gathering. It seems that baby Angela is better. One of the commander's wives is pregnant, so he won't be needing a handmaid. And the vultures are circling to request June as their possible next handmaid. Turns out to be false labor. This makes Serena very angry, and as usual, she takes it out on June as though June has control over false labor, suggesting induction. But they can't do that. Expelling June earlier wasn't bad enough. Now she's insisting on a different district as well. June goes to Fred, requesting to move to her daughter Hannah's district, but he's a complete dick about it, saying, "Who are you to tell me what's within my power. Then, after she tries to reason with him, I've been too lenient with you, too indulgent. I've spoiled you. It takes her a little bit, 'cause seriously, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Spoiled. That's what you're calling this. But June finally responds, you have no idea what it is to have a child of your own flesh and blood. And you never will. Yeah, Fred, it ain't your kid, but whatever. Fred and Serena spawn their diabolical plan to induce June sooner. And Serena says, the most natural way is best. And for the record, Fred suggested that she could be induced, while Serena insisted that the natural way is best. But I don't believe for a second that Fred wasn't thinking the same goddamn thing, just tried to lead Serena to it, so that he could say it's all her idea and not his. Either way, he suggested inducing, she suggested the natural way, which obviously doesn't always work and fucking didn't. Horrible people. Ritualized rape under Gilead customized tradition aren't bad enough. No, they've got to force it against her will while she's pregnant for their own selfish spite, hatred, and impatience. So fucking wrong. Nick, what are you doing? Looking out for signs of June? But she's traumatized on Serena's bed. Eden goes to take out the trash and gets her first real kiss out of desire for Isaac. Seeing that Nick spotted her, she freaks out, but he doesn't respond, doesn't care. She says, you should care, but he doesn't. This poor girl, rejected by her husband, but you can't force love where it doesn't exist. Oh, fun, Pig Fred, you nasty creep. And of course, he has to ease his guilt by letting June see her kid, only to have her ripped away right after. Nick's taking her, and he's not supposed to let himself be seen. It doesn't look like he did. He can't get June to speak. He keeps asking her what happened, what Fred did, but she won't speak and doesn't tell him what happened. But they get to this huge house, out of the way in the middle of nowhere, snow all over the ground, and she gets 10 minutes with her daughter. Hannah's a bit timid and hides behind her Martha, but she remembers June, remembers her mom getting hit in the head, but also wants to know why June and her dad didn't try harder to find her. Still, she understands that June's pregnant. She understands that June isn't going to be able to keep the baby. And she understands that she has to go back to her Gilead parents. June asks about her parents, how they are, how she likes them, if they hit her for punishment. And the Martha says that she's only been hit twice for punishment, which isn't great, but it's something. Guardian suddenly says, we have to go right now. I don't think it was 10 minutes, but maybe he's worried about getting out unseen. It seems like he's trying to get out of there quicker. Just not too quick, because he does give them time to speak. Hannah asks if she'll ever see her again, and June says she's going to try. After they take her out to leave, June goes back out after Hannah just to ease her a little bit with a gentle talk and an I love you. But I think I heard a car before they left. Then someone drives up. Nick gets June inside to hide, and he tries to go back out there and say he's just checking on the house, but they don't buy it. They say no one's supposed to be here. Someone shoots, but it hits the ground. Then they grab Nick, grab the gun, take Nick and his vehicle, and June is stranded there in the dead of winter, pregnant and just about ready to pop. Now, when this first aired, I did not know what happened with Nick. I did not know that that shot did not hit him, that it wasn't necessarily being shot at him. After watching it again, I could see that the shot was hit at the ground, and it looked like it might have actually been Nick that made the shot, but The gun fell to the ground. One of the guys grabbed the gun, and one of the guys took Nick into the vehicle. The other guy grabbed Nick's vehicle. At least this time I know what's going to happen, but that time I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if they were going to lock Nick up, if Nick was going to get hurt, or if he was hurt, because I didn't realize that shot didn't hit him. At least it wasn't the finale, because they could have easily made that the season finale and not let anybody know what was happening until the next season. But this was episode 10 of a 13 episode season. We didn't have to wait too terribly long to find out some of what was going to happen. Although I don't remember at what point we found out that Nick was definitely alive and okay. Because even when we see Serena and Fred again, Nick is not with them. Y'all, we're on episode 11 called Holly. This season is shaping up to be one damn right hell of a season. Really, really loving it. This may just be my favorite. Freaking outstanding. June runs to the road, but the vehicles are long gone. She tries to get in the large garage, but it's locked. And when I say large, I mean this garage has spots for 4 cars and extra space for like shed area type stuff. Really huge and completely separate from the house. Several times she sees a black wolf staring straight at her, but I suspect it's meant more as symbolism for her fear, her hurt, her desperation. Either that or it's hallucination. June rummages through the house, trying to find keys, I think. Then she sees the dollhouse. They talk about that dollhouse in Testaments. I won't go further into it than that. She sees a picture of Hannah and her Gilead mom. Flashback to the first time saying bye to Hannah, who's going to preschool. It might just be harder for June than it is for Hannah. Back to the rummaging in Gilead. This time, she finds the keys in the top drawer of the desk in that room where the dollhouse and the picture are. She gets in the garage, starts the car, but guess what? The garage door is closed. Oprah is on the radio. Radio Free America. She reports that there's been increased aid from India and China to America, sanctions on Gilead from the UK, and an increase in the cap on the refugees that were allowed to come from Gilead into Canada. June goes back into the house to scrounge up supplies, put them in a bag, and get them into the car. God, it would have been good if she could have driven out of there. She does know how to think on her feet, but she's not always so good at planning for things not going to plan. Back in the house again, the commander's coat that'll help keep her from freezing, but the wife dresses ain't gonna fit. Flashback, night out in a black dress, and June is pregnant with Hannah. Back in Gilead, Fred and Serena show up. Nick's not there, and Fred calls for Nick, who hasn't checked in, so he's still completely unaccounted for. Serena finds June's cloak, but no June. "They'll put us on a wall," she says. "God forbid. Might hang them side by side. June's got a gun." She didn't shoot. Probably wouldn't have worked out anyway. Too much kick. Likely would miss, or only hit one of them and still get caught. Flashback to June's mom, Holly, showing her birthplace. But June wants the hospital, the doctors, and lots of drugs. She also thinks that her mom won't bother to show. Says not to make promises that she can't keep. But her mom does show. She's a little late, but she shows. In Gilead, June can't get that garage door open for the car to get out. She falls in the snow trying to dig and pound open the door. Too late, that baby is coming. Wolf again. Is it really there? Is it symbolism? Or is she hallucinating? I asked my youngest kid, and they said they don't think she's hallucinating because the way the snow was actually falling on the wolf and looked real. But they also said that they don't think the wolf was really there because with the condition that she was in, The wolf wasn't really reacting and just staring and not doing anything. Didn't seem like it was real. A lot of blood, so thankfully this didn't go completely sideways. She did what she felt was best, given the situation. Went outside, shot off warning shots. All alone in that house, naked, bleeding, but pushing and breathing through it. All that birthing training and past birth are coming through. This was so harrowing, such a powerful, amazing birth. I still think this birth beats Serena's later in the series, hands down. Hi there, baby Holly. And back at another flashback, June's mom finally shows up to meet Hannah after a delayed flight and crap traffic. But she's there. In telling this story, I will you into existence. This line I really like because it really takes you into some of the storyline that was in the book, where she talks about how the story that she's telling isn't wonderful, that it's in bits and pieces, but that she does the best she can to tell it, and that she does try to add nice things here and there, but that it's frankly not a great story, that there's all this stuff that happens that I think she feels makes her look very bad. But given the situation, I think anybody would really turn out not to look so hot. Gilead really does screw people over. Even people that seem to start out really good and well-meaning end up becoming monsters, including June. But another thing that this storyline in the book does is kind of entertain this idea of if you're telling a story, then you must be telling a story for somebody to hear it. If nobody ever hears the story, then there's almost no point in the story. But that by creating this story, by writing the story down or recording it, you're ensuring that it is there for future prosperity. Even with the idea that it may never be found. There may never be anybody that reads it. But I liked that she said, in telling you this story, I will you into existence. Because this is part of the contemplation that goes on in the book, is who am I actually writing this for? Is anybody actually going to ever hear this story? But by creating the story, you're almost creating an audience to eventually hear it. And we know, at least if you've read the books, you know that they do eventually hear the story. This is why Handmaid's Tale is a thing, according to the books, because these stories were written down, they were recorded, and many other people's stories from Gilead were documented in some fashion. People in the future managed to get their hands on them and were able to tell those stories to others. Now, the book presents it as scholarly people from a university. It was probably like a couple hundred years in the future or something like that. They find these stories and they try to piece together like when each thing happened because it wasn't in order and how things would have gone, and try to piece together as much information as they could. They tried to find out who given people were that she talked about in the story, because names in Gilead were intentionally changed. Identifications were intentionally destroyed so that people wouldn't find them. But there were some of the big name commanders and stuff that people did have some information about, had some knowledge about. So there were these ideas that, hey, this commander could have existed. This person could have been this person. And I think they said that there was no indication as to who the actual handmaid was, and possible ideas about who the driver might have been, although I think they said they never figured out who the driver was. But Fred, they seemed to have some idea of who Fred was. And there's this other big commander, I think in Handmaid's Tale and later on in Testaments, that they seem to have pieced together somewhat of an idea of who he was. And for a long time, I wondered if that person was Lawrence. Some of the story adds up that it could be somebody like Lawrence, but there's things about that commander that are so almost opposite of Lawrence that I don't think it could be him. Like, he's intentionally going through wife after wife, and these wives are ending up dead. And that is not something that I imagined that Lawrence could ever do. I could be wrong. I mean, maybe into the future he becomes this completely horrible, awful person because of losing his wife. But even at the point that we've seen the end of last season of Handmaid's Tale, there seemed to be no indication that he was going that freaking off the rails. But I don't know. It could be. I mean, look at the mess that happened at the very end of the season, with Nick getting locked up, with Janine being arrested. I'm still holding out hope that that's actually a plot to get them the hell out of there, but there's no guarantee. What if it turns out that it's not a plot to get him out of there, that it's actually Lawrence just going off the rails and becoming a complete dickhead monster like all the other Gilead commanders seem to be? Anyway, time to watch another episode. I'm really enjoying this. Episode 12 is called Postpartum. Serena's got the baby now, called it Nicole, even though June called her Holly after her mom. Not enough milk. It's not good for the baby. Nick is back. Fred is praising him for his discretion, but Nick does not look happy. Not sure exactly how it went down. Supposedly, some overzealous guardians got carried away, but Nick really does not look happy. June gets a visit from Fred and Baby at the Red Center. Really not liking this, putting her kids in front of her just to rip them away. Maybe Lydia can convince them with a little groveling from June. She's back in the house now, but Serena is pissed, insists on no contact and pumping in her room. Emily has been refused now by 4 commanders, but Lawrence is considered the architect of Gilead's economy and has accepted Emily. Emily asks if he's such a great commander, why would he want such a shitty handmaid? Lawrence is odd, different, eclectic. Gripes with the Martha about touching his stuff, scares Emily with questions about the offense of reading his comic, and asks if it's fair, which she responds that it's the law, but he's like, no, is it fair? June's pumping and trying to hear the baby through the floor. And after she goes down to put the milk in the fridge, she runs into Eden, who asks about if God would want a baby to be born with 2 parents who love each other, rather than parents who don't love each other. June first tries to tell her that she doesn't have anything to worry about, that she'll be gone soon. But before she leaves, she says, in this place, you should get love anywhere you can find it. I do remember the first time I watched this, after Eden gets in trouble, thinking it was kind of June's fault that she told her that, almost like it was vindictive. But watching it again, it really didn't look like that. It really looked like June was just coming back to say, no, really, in this place, it's so awful. Get love wherever you can get it from. Because it's like the only thing that helps you to get through without feeling like you're dead inside anyway. Next morning, Nick comes in asking if anyone's seen Eden. Then June and Nick reminisce about running away together, having their own real family. Fred comes in, asks if anyone's seen Isaac. He didn't show up for his post this morning. Well, now Nick realizes what he thinks may have happened. Fred and June have this discussion about how the reunion with her daughter went. He's so freaking delusional, not knowing what dangling June's kids in front of her and then ripping them away really is doing. Emily meets Eleanor, who says that Commander Lawrence came up with the colonies, made the whole thing up, planned it all, and made it happen. Having these girls digging in the poisoned soil, says he's a monster. And Emily's got to feel a certain kind of way, learning that Lawrence created the colonies as punishment. where she ended up going. He questions her and seems to know a lot about her old life. Seems like he's intentionally trying to push her buttons. They found Eden and brought her and Isaac back. She asks Nick for forgiveness, to which he responds that he should be the one asking her because he never showed her the love and kindness that she freaking deserved. So she says that they should forgive each other. She's resigned to accept her punishment, to stay with Isaac. They are sentenced to the common mercy of the state. Since they would not renounce their sins, they were executed by drowning. There were 7 other weights at the bottom of that pool when they went down. Nick is distraught and guilt-ridden. And everyone in that house is so freaking distraught. Serena even grows a little heart and lets June breastfeed. Skin-to-skin contact. No more pumping. Alright, this is episode 13, the season finale, The Word. I'm telling you guys, I did not remember just how much I loved this episode. There were just so many feels. So many feels. All we leave behind is the uniform. Wife, Martha, handmaid, mother, daughter, and on and on. Just that uniform. That's all that's left by Eden. Except June found she had a Bible. Serena said seems like Eden was hiding a multitude of sins. And June's response? What sins? Serena, she was trying to understand God. Serena yelled her out, but June has already planted that seed. Goodness, all these different perspectives of Eden's father. Then hearing his open revelation that he is the one who turned her in, resulting in her death. Nick and June get to be alone with their baby. So sweet, but so fleeting. Eden and Isaac were drowned in that pool, and of course, Gilead has to hang them. Today is Emily's first ceremony. She says she's been dreaming about Oliver. He's now 7. June tells Emily she'll get through the ceremony. Just imagine your commander going through a wood chipper. To which Janine responds, "It's so awful." Emily's preparing for a slashing ceremony. Lawrence looks at her, tells her no, get up. I'm not going to do that with you. After June's seed was planted, Serena's spoken with her friends, and her and many of the other wives are proposing both their sons and daughters be taught to read the Bible. Then Serena begins reading from Eden's Bible. It's really remarkable. It takes a lot of courage, and some of the women don't stay with her, but some of them do. But those wives have every right to be fearful. We know what Gilead does to women who read. Fred, you cowardly man. He enables her being taken away, and then later on seems to encourage it. What a fucking coward. What a piece of shit. Emily now sees the monster in front of her. She knows Aunt Lydia did this shit to her. It's time for her to pay. Stabs her in the back, kicks her down the stairs. She's probably gonna do some more, but Cora sees her, calls Lawrence, sends Emily to her room. Range of emotions you can see going through Emily. It says so much without saying a single word. June sees something is wrong when Serena comes home. Asks what's wrong. Serena shows her the removed finger and says she tried. Fred chalks this up to having roles to play, and that Serena needed to be reminded of hers. What a fucking cowardly piece of shit. This guy is such a fucking pig, trying to convince June to be obedient. Maybe we'll try again for a boy in exchange. To which she says, go fuck yourself. Yes, Fred, go fuck yourself. What the fucking hell? You are such a goddamn piece of shit, cowardly creep. Lawrence is now taking Emily for a ride. Plays walking on broken glass. And Emily is really going through it. Her emotions are uncontained. She can't freaking hold it anymore. Tells Lawrence to please turn that off after it's just too much. something's happening. You hear dogs in the background, you see lights going outside. Then Rita comes in, tells June, we can get you out of here, but it's gotta be now. The Marthas are making this happen. There's a fire, there's guardians all over the place. There's Nick, he gives June a nod. Gets near the greenhouse and Serena sees her as she's leaving, and Serena calls, what are you doing? But Serena, you know she cannot grow up here. You really love her. You cannot let her grow up here. Serena says her goodbyes and lets her go. She even hands her off to June. Fred has a map, more than one, with the Gilead controlled areas, rebel and non-Gilead areas. I wish I could see the legend better so I could see more of what's actually in the map. I think later on I'll try to compare it to what's on the internet and see if they seem pretty much the same. Sirens are going off. Nick goes up after Fred to stop him from leaving. Using the Martha network, June goes through the fence, across properties, across a road, past a wall, through a field. What it must have taken to make this happen. To pull it off so quickly and so suddenly. For all the pieces to fall into place. I think when June pulled out that picture of Hannah and has that flashback of singing that mirror song to Hannah, that was our clue that she's still not ready to let go of Hannah. She says to Emily when she sees her, says, you're getting out. Not we're getting out. You're getting out. Emily asks what's happening. Lawrence replies, I'm getting myself in deep shit. June hands the baby to Emily, says call her Nicole, tell her I love her, and closes the door. The episode closes with burning down the house playing in the background. Is that foreshadowing of the coming season? I think it might be. Burning down the house. Can't wait. I do have to say, I loved this season. I loved watching it again. I loved watching it the first time. It might be my favorite season. I can't really say for sure. I liked this season better than the first. It just has a lot more hope. It has a lot more wins, which the first season had like one win. One win that turned out to be a loss. Yes, I know this is like the second time that June's getting out and she's not going to get out because she's not ready to go. And I know a lot of people got very frustrated at how many times that June almost got out but didn't leave. But if you have a kid stuck in a place like that, and you're pretty freaking certain that once you leave, that kid has almost no chance of ever getting out, and they're going to be stuck in Gilead, where they'll be forced to marry somebody they don't fucking love, forced to have babies, forced to follow all these horrific fucking rules. Tell me again how likely you would be to freaking up and leave without your fucking kid if you thought there was just some semblance of a chance that you might be able to get them. Also, I've seen some of the stories of people that have really tried to escape situations where they're stuck in a country that's really oppressive like that they need to get out, and they're trying to get out, and it doesn't happen after once or twice. It happens after trial, after trial, after trial. After many, many things not working out, things going bad, getting caught multiple times, and sometimes they manage to finally make it. But that doesn't always happen. This is a TV show, but what they're representing by this person trying over and over and over to get out or to get her kid out or whatever, it happens in real life. Handmaid's Tale is a fictional story, but it has a lot of rooting in really horrible stuff that happens in real humans' lives. You can take it whatever way you want to, but I don't have a problem with the repeated attempts to get out, yet unwillingness to leave without your kid, and not working out the way that it's planned, because that's the way fucking real life is. And that's the way it is when you're dealing with an oppressive regime like that. And it really does cause trauma and turmoil. So fictional or not, I think they did a decent job at showing some of the horrific crap that goes on, showing how bad a good person can become, and how sometimes even the worst people can sometimes do good. Anyway, enough of me preaching.